All right, I don't see the number ticking higher, so I think we may have everyone. All right, thanks for joining us this evening. My name is Trey. I'll be your instructor for today. And if you have any questions, if I, maybe the connection loses some clarity or something, and you did hear something or misunderstood or need some clarification, please feel free to drop it in the chat, and um, we'll hopefully get that answered in a timely fashion. So your monitors are off, we can't see you, and the mics are muted, so you'll just have to add your questions or comments or need me to repeat something or clarify something. By all means, please add it to the chat. All right. Well, welcome. Again, my name is Trey, and we're going to be going through the Ancestry Library Edition tonight. And let me make sure I got there we go. So it's really just kind of a basic survey of Ancestry. We're going to go through some basic site navigation. So hopefully you'll be able to recall some basic site navigation and where to find the charts and forms. That's a really valuable resource. In fact, I had forgotten when I looked to check for any changes that I had forgotten there was quite a few forms that I I'd remember seeing in the past, which would have been useful for some research, and a few new things I totally didn't remember was there. So it's a good resource. We'll also show you where to locate the Learning Center. They have a um, nice spot where you can get some extra additional tips on using their resources and tips to the resources themselves, how to make informed research choices and what materials can be found in those resources. They have some nice stuff. And basically, we're going to go through and construct a basic search and just kind of show you and go into the wild, so to speak. And I'll show you some Ancestry Library Edition tools and some things around the site. So, get my keyboard to work. Here we go. So Ancestry. Now, some of you may have heard of Ancestry. You can get an individual subscription to Ancestry. Ancestry Library Edition is going to be a little bit different, and it's only available in the library. This is not no longer available remotely like it had been during the COVID years. It's now back to just only being available through any of the public libraries. I'm sorry, any of the public computers at the Plano Public Library. Basic, and I'll probably repeat this later because I'll forget that I've said it. The basic difference, in essence, between the individual account and the library edition is just a different membership tier. And with the library edition, probably the biggest perk, I guess you could say, that you may notice is that with the library edition, you will have access to being able to search some international records. If you have an individual subscription, you don't have access to international records without subscribing to an additional tier to get those. But with the library edition, you'll get some international records to at least get you started to see if that's a direction that works for your research needs. So that's pretty cool. Now, Ancestry is a for-profit company. It's owned by an investor group. It's not affiliated with the LDS church. It just happens to be based in Utah. So that's where the similarity ends. You'll be able to find quite a bit of census and voter records. And on this one, you can see down towards the bottom of that screenshot, they've got, or kind of actually that would be the middle of the page. They've got the 1950 Census District Finder. So you're being able to jump in and start exploring some of the 1950 census already. You're going to have access to a lot of birth, marriage, and death records. There are over 800 million obituaries and 220 million, that's million, marriages in their newspapers.com index. And you'll also find immigration and travel, as well as some city directories, school yearbooks, can't talk this evening, and some other resources. So we're going to jump into Ancestry. So I'm going to jump out of the PowerPoint here. While I'm doing that, are there any questions so far?
So far, the chat is clear.
Cool. Yay. All right. So the basic site navigation, if you can see across, first of all, can you see this Ancestry homepage?
No, right now we just see the PowerPoint.
Oops. Okay. I was afraid of that. Let me get to the right one here. I forget sometimes it gets just stuck on the one page. Can you see the?
Yes, yeah, now
Okay.
we can see the Ancestry homepage.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so when you're logged into an Ancestry here, or through any of the library's public computers, basic navigation across this top ribbon. You've got the home page, obviously, and you've got search, message boards, a learning center, charts and forms, new collections. And charts and forms is really handy. We always like in our intro to genealogy classes, we always ask people, hey, have you started out filling out your ancestry chart, and your family record? Fill out these resources with as much information as you have before you just jump in and start searching. If you want to really do a productive search, sure, you can jump in, and we'll talk about that in a moment, and just get into a search. And while it's fun, it's going down the rabbit hole, it may yield you tens of thousands of search results that may be discouraging. But the charts and forms is very, very handy. You can download this form. We use actually this little image here that they use is configured like our form that we have that you can ask us for at the genealogy desk. We can hand that out. But I noticed that they changed it a little bit. And if you click on this form, well, I don't hate it. It's really handy. It's a form where you can actually fill in information. You can type it in and fill it out, which is nice. And then you could print it, and you don't have to handwrite everything. That's kind of handy. But it has some shortcomings in some other ways. If you're compiling this to go along with your family record pages, and keeping it all straight, like, chart 1 of 5, chart 2 of 5, this doesn't seem to have that capability, which is unfortunate. But you can download it. And I noticed that even when you've downloaded it, you have the ability to type and fill out these, so you don't have to handwrite it. So that's good for those of you that are like me that have terrible handwriting and may write something today, and 3 months from now, when I go back to look at something, go, what was I trying to express here? So that can be handy and add to some clarity. But again, like I said, I'm not a great fan, but it's kind of handy. And I need to get this out of the way.
Trey, we do have a quick question
Sure.
about logging into Ancestry. So it's understood that you have to be here at the library to access it, but they're wondering if you log into your own personal account, if that's an option.
You can, but again, you will not have access to all the resources that the library edition has. You'll only have access to what you, the individual subscriber, would have on your personal account that you could access at home or wherever you have internet access.
Awesome. Thank you. I think that answers it.
Yep. And let me go back over here. So it's got some other handy records to aid in research that some I remembered and I forgot and now saw and went, oh yeah, that's really handy. And some that are kind of new. And they have explanations. There's the family group sheet that I had mentioned. They got some really good ones. So if you're really diving into the research and trying to keep track of your resources that you've exhausted and looked for information, it's some nice handy forms to help you keep your notes and keep track of where you've looked. And even the simple thing like this was kind of fun, the correspondence record. You email a group, a heritage association or a genealogy group or a family history group or something. It's got a handy little record here. You can keep track of who you asked, who you sent emails to, or who you filled out the online web form for. Something that's probably something that's very handy and often forgotten, because you research something and you'll come back around a few months or a few years later, and if you're like me, you're not going to remember the exact details of who you had asked a research information assistance. And then that way you can, if you have a record of it, you can see, hey, somebody didn't respond, and you could follow up and get with them and see, hey, what's going on, in a polite fashion. Also with this charts and forms, I don't know if you can see where my cursor is. You've got that highlighted in green because we're on the charts and forms. Right next to it, you've got census forms. This is very handy as well. If you're looking and doing your census research, you've got the census examples of the census form, the blank forms that you can review, or you can download them so that you can have a copy for the different decades that the census was done, so you can see clearly what the different columns and the organization of the information represents. Sometimes some of that gets overwritten or it's not quite legible on the scans. So it has a blank representation that you can study. That sometimes is quite helpful. Oops. You also have, like I said, with the library edition, you have some international records. So you have a similar thing set up for the UK census forms and the Canadian census forms. Not as many years, but still interesting if that's the time period you're looking for family information. Now we'll go back here, back up to this top navigation bar, and you've got the Learning Center. Excuse me. You've got a lot of information here. You've got some basics on getting started. Their top 10 search tips, creating timelines. Really goes into a number of different things, like in the census information's got 10 census tips, follow your family using census records. And so it's got a lot of guides to help you navigate the different types of records. Beyond the basics, you're getting into researching the religious records, church records, researching the death records, getting into military and cemetery records. Some helpful guides on how to research immigration. And like I said, there's more detailed on, you're looking at the military records. And then some different shortcuts to research for different ethnic records. So you got the African American family research, and if you happen to be Swedish, German, Canadian, or Native American, it's got some other helpful guides for that as well. And I'm just going to click on one, and so they have these handy reference guides, which are about 6 pages on this one, to kind of help you guide you getting started on doing research and explain some of the basic forms and documents that you're likely to encounter, and what information you can glean from those resources. So it's got some nice handy, and of course that's also downloadable, or you can print it up here. So those are very handy. I believe that would download into a PDF, I believe. Yeah, it's a PDF. And of course, for those of you that might need it a little bigger like me, you can play around with increasing the size of the page so you can read it. Getting a million tabs open here, aren't I? There we go. Okay. So those are helpful to just explore. Very much like the census records in the charts and forms, you got some right next to the research aids here. You've got another little tab or button, and you've got maps. And this gives you a way to as their little blurb here, it gives you a way to understand the state your ancestor lived in, and to help understand where might you go for research. So all you have to do is click on a state, and does that give you, well, that's just one map. Oh, east and west. So they have it split up between east and west to fit on the page, and still give you handy links to research guides. So an overall Texas research guide. Again, it's going to be this nice handy little document. So it goes through, here's the Texas resources. So it gives you a significant dates in Texas history. And then some research records, and specifically what vital records you can find in Ancestry. And then some other state resources, like the Texas State Library and Archives Commission, the State Genealogical Society, and the Texas US Gen Web project. Let's see, do they have other collections? Curiously, they don't list one. I'm going to throw it out here. And other Texas, it's a little harder to research sometimes, but the Texas General Land Office also has a good deal of genealogical resources. And that's a whole nother subject, but trust me, they're there. It might be useful in your research. I'm surprised that state resource is not actually listed there. Hidden gem, let's say. But anyway, yeah, you've got different specific, and the wiki has moved. So it'll take you, some of those other resources, it would take you into some of their wikis, Wikipedia articles, if you wish to call them that. It gives you information on what the different records hold and what kind of information you can find. And you can see for Texas, there's a whole bunch of information. And you can do that simply, let me see if I can back up without totally syncing everything. And you can do that for just about any state. They've got information. And if you scroll down the page, whoops, went too far, didn't I? See, almost scuttled it. If you scroll down, that was it. Okay. So it's just going to be the US maps. And resource links. thinking in my mind for some reason that I scrolled down and there was international below that, but that's a different map for something else. All right. Y'all follow me so far? Hopefully.
So far, there are no questions, so I think they're following.
Cool, cool. So I'm just kind of working backwards down this toolbar up here at the top, ribbon, whatever you want to call it. So message boards is kind of fun. They've got a whole bunch of message boards. This is a part if anybody has an individual account with Ancestry, they may be familiar with the message boards. You can go through and message and try to get help in maybe getting past a brick wall and finding someone in your research. And as they post here, it's like over 25 million posts on 198,000 different boards. These are searchable. You can search for, keywords or names within these message board chats, dialogues, if you will. And you have the advanced search option, of course. You can look for a few things, name, subject of message. These are handy for researching and finding, maybe you've got a brick wall about accessing certain types of records or something. Someone may, 25 million posts, chances are somebody has asked that question. I bet you. Someone's probably asked that question before, and you can find what the response was on this. Now, in the Ancestry Library Edition, you can search, you can read, you can, I think, download and print, I think. Oops, can't type. Yes, I'm just going to go with John Smith, and there's going to be a ton of stuff. John Smith yielded over 20,000 pages at right now, 10 per page. So that's a lot of stuff. But I think, so you can see the thread. It looks like you can print it. I don't see a download, but it looks like you get to the right point in the thread. It looks like you could print your answer. Just with the library edition, you will not be able to post your own question. You can search what's out there on the message boards, but you will not be able to interact and post under the library edition. If you have an individual membership, yes, you'd be able to participate in the message boards, but at least they're there as a resource for searching if you don't have an individual account. Now, speaking of searching, you've got the search. Let me go back to the home here. So for a lot of people, I think the tendency when they start out, they go to the home page is when you've opened up Ancestry here and you go, oh, yep, begin searching. Yep, we're going to do that. And it can be overwhelming, as you can already see in exploring by collection. Where do I start? What do I do? Oh my gosh. And then you go through and you've got all these states and you've got all these continents. By all means, sure. If you want to just play, jump in, explore, do so. Just careful. You can get overwhelmed. Don't expect like instant results and connections finding your long lost ancestor just yet, because the search returns can be overwhelming. Just jumping in and doing it. I would suggest, outside of maybe just jumping in and doing the begin searching, and I'll show you some examples in just a moment. If you want to play and just explore, that's a good way. I like to play and explore and see if I can break it. You're not going to break it, but you know what I mean. a figure of speech. But I would suggest starting out with a more specific targeted search by searching census records or searching vital records or something of that nature. But let's just play. Let's go. We're here to play, here to learn. So we're just going to go begin searching. And this is going to take us to everything. Now, like I said, it can be overwhelming, but it might be fun just to use this as a starting point to play and learn. Just like I said, remember that a number of search results can be immense, and just the immensity of it all can be overwhelming. But it's good, like I said, good way to explore the types of resources. So I'm gonna just plug in here, and this is almost as bad. Whoops, didn't mean to put a space there. This is almost as bad as typing in John Smith. And so I'm not putting anything else. I'm just putting in a name. It's going to be broad spectrum search here. We're not even putting a city, county, state, or country or a birth year. And we're just going to go. Had me nervous, had me waiting. So that's not too terribly bad. It could be worse, but 156,000 some odd results, that's a lot of stuff. And if you look here in this left-hand column under the filters, you can see, okay, just searching with a name, broadly searching census voter list, there's 20,000 plus. Birth, marriage, and death, there's over 50,000. That can be overwhelming. In North America alone, the records is over 100,000. So that could be definitely overwhelming. So in your results here, you also have variations in the name. I searched John Colvin. It gives me Johnny, although it's been corrected here to John, John Carmen or John. Here's another spelling of a different spelling of, I don't know if that's Johnny, it's probably, what was that on? Could have been a clerical typo, or that might have been how he spelled and went by his name. He might have been known as Johnny. Could be. But if you click on something more specific, like the census and voter records or the birth, marriage, and death, and narrow your, refine your search and narrow with your filter options, that'll help you kind of wade through some of that. But that's if you jump in and just plop a name and get a ton of results. Not super helpful, and it can be discouraging because you're still wading through thousands of returns potentially under the census and voter records. But if we go back and we throw in something like a state, and a country, and then we search again, still not changing really much of anything else. It still has 156,000 records up here of your search, but at least the returns are more into the targeted area of what you're looking for in the top part of the search. Still a lot of years covered because it's 1500 to the 2000s, the years that is. You can refine that even more, adding a birth year range, or as we said, just go straight into a collection. So I'm going to change that to that. Oh, and I forgot to point out, when you clicked on the search, It also gives you the option where you can search all categories as we did, or you can go to specific record collections. Looks like there's something below that, but I guess they're in, oh, it's the font under that. And we can do that. I want to click on the card catalog real quick. This is also kind of fascinating, but it can also be overwhelming. Card catalog, you can search if you are looking for something in particular, specific records. These, if memory serves, I think these are the latest, newest records. So I think this list is the same list that you would get if you went to the new collections, I think. Yeah. Yep, same thing. So the card count, yeah, that's the same thing. It's just the latest added records that's been digitized and added to the collection. So there's a numbers of records within these collections. You can see that one. Let's see, Estonia Lutheran Parish Registers. That's incredible. 21 million records of birth, marriage, and death. That's a lot getting of stuff to wade through. Then you have a little bit more manageable. And when I say manageable, the caveat maybe if this is a low number of let's see, in Florida, U.S. death and burial records, 1896 to 1916. So, what, 20-year span? Thereabouts. It's only 2,000 records. Just know they may still be digitizing. That project may be incomplete. Holy moly, look at that one from California right here in the newspapers and periodicals, stories and events index. That's a lot of stuff to wade through. So you can do that. Also fascinating, but it's not helpful in creating your basic search, admittedly, because you can go down through the rabbit hole for sure. I'm going to go back to the all categories and point something out too that you can explore by location. And if you're looking for Texas records, it's got 143 collections here. And you can see how many records, and you can go through and find perhaps a record collection that suits the years that you're looking for doing searches. And you can see they got quite a bit of stuff and another page worth of things. You can see it's pages 26 through 50, or results 26 through 50 out of the 143. Excuse me. So you've got a lot of stuff there, and you can click on a lot of those, but you can zoom out of this map and you can move the mouse around and you can find, if you're doing some international searches, if you've gotten to that point, you kind of got to move and wait for it to repopulate. Sometimes there's a little bit of a delay. So move it over, and then you can zoom in. Might open up a few more records and you can zoom in. We're going to look at the Dublin records. There's 12 collections in the Dublin, Ireland. And then you can look at some of those records and see what they have. And we're just going to go into that one. Oh no, that page is no longer. What were the odds of me selecting one page that is no longer available? Okay, we're going to look at Quaker records. Oh no. Well, mercy. That's what I get for randomly selecting a record. Okay, third time was not the charm. So in this one, it did come up, third time the try. And then you can search and do some things looking for your ancestor within this one record. Now, again, you can search with just the first name and last name and see what that gives you. And then if that's still quite a unwieldy list of records to go through and check each one, then fill out a little bit more information if you know of it. Start with if you knew a city that they lived in, put that. If you know any other information about the family, you can add that. And just keep adding components to narrow the search results. Okay, I didn't mean to go down a rabbit hole on that, but that was kind of cool that you can go move around, find a specific area if you have a region that you know family is from, and exploring what records are there. And maybe, let's say you're missing a relative that you heard may have moved to, I don't know, let's say Idaho, and got married. You could search it gives you a list of some records. You can call up that and please say it's there. Yes. I was going to be unhappy if I randomly selected another one. It's not going to be useful. And then you could search for your relative's name to see if, in fact, if that's a start. And if you get a hit, and maybe you can research that a little further and drill down and explore those to say, okay, maybe they did move to, which state did that? Idaho, is that the one I selected? So perhaps. Now, I'm going to go back out here. Whoops. And then again, you do have the map of Europe, but as I said, you don't have to necessarily click on those. You can just use your mouse and left button hold and drag the map around and move around, either or, whichever works for you. So I'm going to do a search again. Oh, I was going to do specifically the census and voter list. Under the census and voter list, I am actually going to explore the U.S. Federal Census collection. And I am going to, oops, keep putting a space there. I am going to do that. And I'm going to do, I know I want it to be, oops, I don't want birth, lived in. I'm going to say lived in. And I'm going to do the 1940 census. Oops. Oops, I guess I should have called up that first. Let me go back and show you my oops. So I selected the U.S. Federal Census collection here. What I should have done, and I should have showed y'all, and it's got nice research search tips here on the right-hand column. But if you scroll down, it's got a lot. You'll notice there's a lot of fields that you could put something in. And I know the tendency, if you know a lot of the information, is to dump a lot of the information that you know in. But these search fields are there to be used across all of their resource, across their whole platform. So if I'm already searching US federal census records, it's not going to find anything if I put in military records here. It's not going to find anything on that because it's searching census records, not military records. So the fields are here, but that's not necessarily going to don't be discouraged or stop just because you don't find anything. It just, you may have filled out, added some information as a component of your search that's not found in that particular record. But if you keep going, because I select the US Census, it's got some quick links to specifically to the data sets. So I'm going to select the 1940 census. So now I'm going to be searching within the 1940 US federal census. Now this says census and voter lists. There also are, state census, different country census, all going to give you some different information. But I'm going to plug in now. See, I did it again. I cannot type the first two letters without being capital. And I'm going to put lived in. And I'm going to see it's got a whole ton of more information. Of course, it opens up a little bit more information specific to the census, which also might be helpful. If you have already reviewed all the different fields that were the questions on the 1940 census, you could be prepared to answer those should you know them. But we're going to just leave it wide open here because I don't know what his occupation was on that. So I'm going to just go in and search and wait for it. Okay. Now, I get a lot of people, a lot of Louisiana, a lot of different years, but I also want to point out something. Down here, you can see where, that's good. I'll just hover over it if I can. It says Johnny, but here it says Jeannie. Oh, go away. I just want to point to it. So you've got Jeannie E. Calvin and Thomas G. Well, we search for Calvin, right? And I pronounce it Calvin. Other parts of the country have, pronounce it different. One thing that you got to consider with the census records is that there are errors. There are incorrect information, misspellings. It can occur, the person filling out, the census taker, filling out information incorrectly, not hearing or not knowing how to spell the name. The person who gives the information may give incorrect information. Or later, the modern day indexer who's indexing may have had an error and couldn't quite read the handwriting of the census taker, the person who wrote actually on the census record, because a lot of times they're terrible and worse than mine, and that's saying something. But if you go to this record here, so you can see it's been amended. So on the record, and I'm going to pop over here to the actual one here and zoom in. Hopefully y'all be able to see this okay. Let me see, where was this? Yeah, right here. I think this is line 29 right here. It looks like they did CAVIN. So probably they went up and what's your name? And they told the name and said Calvin. And this person filling out the information probably went, okay, it's spelled with an A, C-A-L. And you can see Jeannie here, but it looks like I can't tell. You'll see a lot of scribbling. You'll see some scribbling over here where something got scribbled out. Let's see, this one's not quite, this has got some corrections and stuff scribbled out and remarked. This isn't too bad. You'll find some that are marked up and scribbled over and updated all over the place. At least this one is scribbled out and marked fairly legibly. Some of these not so much. But going back to here, it looks like this has been amended. It was actually Johnny or Joni, maybe. That's probably how she pronounced it, maybe Joni. E. Calvin, not Calvin. So you'll find some quirky stuff there. And let's see. Then it gets into some, what is this? Oh, birthplace. Yeah, so you can drill down if more of your family was living in, let's say, the Lincoln Parish, like John E. Yeah. So the indexer and transcriber has done these wonderful things for the record. Sometimes this bit of information may or may not match up. It's usually pretty good, but I always like to go into the actual source document and taking a look, because you may recognize, be more familiar with cursive than some people, and recognize the spelling that somebody maybe transcribed something inaccurately, because it happens. It happens. We're human. We're not perfect. And even machine readable is not perfect. So now you may be wondering so how do I find Ancestry? Where is that when I get to the library? Well, that's simple. I'm going to borrow this one. You can access it multiple ways. If you would like, you can remember the plano.gov, the city's website. So just remember plano.gov, go to the libraries tab, and then you can scroll down a little bit to the research and learn. And hopefully y'all are still seeing this because I moved to a different tab.
Yes, we can see that.
Okay, cool. I forgot to check. And I just realized, oh my gosh, what if y'all didn't see all that other stuff that opened up in the other tabs and I'm just jabbering away and nobody knew what I was talking about. I would hope y'all would let me know.
No, we could see it.
Okay. So you got the column here, you can jump down to the genealogy, or you could scroll down, and Ancestry Library Edition is right here at the top. You just click on that, access now, or another way, and this will show you a whole bunch of resources for the genealogy center. Again, plano.gov libraries tab, but this time if you just go down to visit and scroll down to genealogy center, you've got upcoming classes listed. You can see we've got quite a few more interesting classes around the corner. And then we've got some of our previously pre-recorded genealogy classes that are on our YouTube channel for the Plano Public Library. You can watch those. We have other resources, Historic Downtown. Here you can find the genealogy resources. We've got a lot of other databases to choose from. And here you have access to the Collin County images. And here we have a handy link to the Ancestry chart, the Ancestry chart that I was talking about that got changed. And this is what I'm familiar. This is what we give out and recommend when we're starting the introduction to genealogy classes for someone just getting started. So this is always helpful to have this filled out with as much information as you can that you know. That way you'll identify with what's not there. You'll identify that's the area for your search. That helps focus your search a little bit. And you just build upon that. If you have any questions, and we've got a big page, you'll just scroll down forever on this thing. If you have any burning, yearning questions for us, you can always feel free to ask a genealogy librarian. I think this link should take you to the, yeah, it'll take you to the web form, or you can just email us direct at genealogy@plano.gov. That'll get directly to the genealogy team, and one of us will get back with you as quickly as possible, and hopefully get an answer or get you directed to a resource or a place where you can find the answer, because we've been glad to hear from you. Are there any questions?
I actually just had a question come into the chat. We'll see. I'm not sure if you can answer this, but let's see. So it's, where would you recommend someone start to search for Ellis Island records?
Ooh, that should be. That is outside of my expertise. I haven't gotten to that point, I'll be honest, with my family research. I want to. Our our family had like a family history association, and they published a book back in the 60s with the whole family in the book. But it was only once they came to North America and to the US, nothing. They just said, and we're Scotch Irish English descent, and haha. Is because I don't think they had, back in that time period, they didn't have a lot of money. They didn't travel overseas. Very rural farming communities, and they didn't travel to England and research in where they needed to long before internet, right? So I would like to do that. I need to do that, but I think you can start here with the immigration and travel. I think they're going to have a lot of documents for that. Outside of here, there's a lot of resources to use, not just one. But Ancestry, yes, you can start here for that. You might get lucky and catch some ships manifest or something. Here's the immigration and right here. So depending on time period, you can play and drill down on some of this. Family search also, while it may look similar to Ancestry and kind of, it's different sets of records, they really only overlap maybe 10%. And that's probably like public federal records and things, but that means there's like 90% unique collections in Ancestry and Family Search. And of course, there's the US archives, the NARA, the National Archives and Records Administration. Does that answer some of the question?
Awesome. I think so. Yes, I did also drop into the chat that email for the genealogy librarians if anyone needed to reach out for a little more assistance there. And taking a look, it looked like that was all that we had in the chat.
Okay, cool. Well, I appreciate y'all attending tonight. Thank y'all for y'all's time. I hope y'all got something out of this. And like I said, if we didn't answer something, or you're a little past the beginner and you're all the way to almost to a roadblock or something, sure, drop us a line and we can we can try to help out. So thank y'all for coming tonight. I appreciate it.